Colonel Jack Miller stood at the viewport of Galactic Council Station Alpha, watching the endless stream of alien ships coming and going. After 15 years as Earth's military attaché to the Council, he had grown used to the sight, but never to the feeling of being watched. The massive space station hung in orbit around Axiom Prime, homeworld of the Zith, one of the founding species of the Council. Jack checked his security badge and straightened his uniform. The emergency meeting called by the High Arbiter was starting in 10 minutes, and he didn't like being summoned with no explanation. "You got the call, too." Susan Gardner appeared beside him, her diplomat's robes flowing as she walked. Jack nodded. "Something big is happening. The Arbiter doesn't call joint military diplomatic briefings unless there's trouble." Susan sighed. "The trade talks aren't going well. The Council keeps adding new restrictions on human AI research. They say it's for safety, but it feels like they're trying to hold us back." As they walked toward the Council chamber, Jack's secure comm unit buzzed. He paused to check the message, then pulled Susan aside into an empty corridor. "My contact in Council security just sent this." Jack showed her his device. On the screen was a document marked with the Council's highest security classification. They're planning to vote next week on the human containment protocol. Susan's eyes widened as she read. "This would limit our colony expansion to just 3 more systems. And look at Section 12. They want us to surrender our newest ships for inspection and modification." "Inspection and crippling, you mean?" Jack said. "This isn't negotiation. It's an ultimatum." They continued to the chamber, both trying to mask their concern. The Grand Hall was filled with representatives from over 30 advanced species. The Zith with their crystalline exoskeletons, the cloud-like Irani, the insectoid Vroll, all species that had been spacefaring when humans were still figuring out agriculture. High Arbiter Tex Loren, a 12-foot-tall Zith, called the meeting to order. "Esteemed delegates, we face a matter of grave concern. Our Security Council has detected unusual military movements in human space." Jack tensed. Earth had indeed been repositioning its fleet, but only as a training exercise. At least, that's what he had been told. Furthermore, the Arbiter continued, "Human research into prohibited technologies has accelerated. We have evidence of quantum displacement experiments that violate Safety Protocol 7B. Susan rose to speak. "High Arbiter, with respect, those experiments were declared in our quarterly reports. They are for defensive purposes only." "Your reports were inadequate," snapped Delegate Prim of the Vroll Hive. "Humans always claim defense while building weapons." The chamber erupted in shouts and accusations. Jack noticed how many species seemed prepared with specific complaints, as if this had been planned. When order was restored, the Arbiter spoke again. "The Council has drafted a proposal to ensure peace. Earth will be asked to accept certain limitations on its technological development and colonial expansion. A temporary oversight committee will ensure compliance." "This is not a request between equals," Susan said, her voice steady despite her anger. "It's a demand for submission." Back on Earth, the Parliament received the Council's proposal 3 days later. Prime Minister Elena Reyes called an emergency session. "They'd finally shown their true intentions," she told the gathered leaders. "After centuries of membership, they still see us as children to be controlled." Defense Secretary Oliver Wright presented the military assessment. "If we accept these terms, we lose the ability to protect our outer colonies. Half our research programs would end immediately." The debate lasted for days. Some argued for compromise, fearing the Council's vastly superior numbers. Others pushed for outright rejection. In the end, the vote wasn't even close. "Send the message," Prime Minister Reyes instructed. "As of today, Earth and all human colonies withdraw from the Galactic Council. We will chart our own course among the stars." Jack Miller, watching the vote from Council Station Alpha, began quietly planning the evacuation of all human personnel. The Council had controlled the galaxy for 50,000 years. No one had ever left before. The Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Alan Peterson walked to the central podium. All 32 alien species watched him with expressions ranging from shock to anger. For the first time in 50,000 years, a member race was formally withdrawing from the Galactic Council. For 300 years, humanity has served alongside you. Alan began, his voice steady. We have fought in your wars, traded in your markets, and shared our art and culture. But we can no longer accept the unequal treatment that has been shown to us. The Zithai Arbiter's crystalline form flickered with blue light, a sign of agitation. Ambassador, this decision is hasty and dangerous. The Council provides protection and stability. Protection comes with a price we can no longer pay, Alan replied. The Human Containment Protocol revealed your true view of us, not as partners, but as threats to be controlled. Across the station, Dr. Olivia White worked quickly in her lab, downloading research data that the Council would soon declare restricted. As Earth's leading expert on faster-than-light travel, she knew her work was particularly valuable. Her assistant Ben appeared at the door, out of breath. Doctor, we need to leave now. Council security is checking all the labs. They're confiscating human research. Olivia nodded and pulled a small device from her pocket. With one command, all her physical equipment began a controlled self-destruct sequence, leaving nothing useful behind. Let's go, she said, slipping the data drive into her boot. Meanwhile, in the docking bay, Captain William Hayes of the Earth Defense Force received urgent messages from human outposts across Council space. All units, this is Hayes. Begin evacuation plan Delta. I repeat, begin evacuation plan Delta. His first officer, Lieutenant Greg Martinez, looked up from his console. Sir, we have reports of Council ships moving to block major jump points. They're trying to trap our people, William said. Alert all Earth vessels. We're switching to Plan Echo. Back in the Council chamber, Alan continued his speech as angry shouts filled the room. Earth withdraws with immediate effect. All treaties and agreements are void. All human citizens have been ordered to leave Council space within 72 hours. This is madness, shouted the Vrol delegate. No one leaves the Council. Alan stood firm. We just did. At that moment, Dr. White and Ben turned a corner and found 3 Council security officers blocking their path. Halt, ordered the lead officer, a tall Irani whose body shimmered like fog. All human research personnel are to be detained pending investigation. Ben stepped forward. We have diplomatic protection under. The officer raised a weapon. Not anymore. Suddenly, the lights in the corridor went out. In the darkness, someone moved quickly. When emergency lighting came on 10 seconds later, the officers lay unconscious and Captain Hayes stood there with 2 Marines. Dr. White, we need to move. Your research is priority 1 for evacuation. They hurried through maintenance tunnels rarely used by Council species. Twice they had to hide from patrols before reaching a small shuttle bay. The main exits are blocked, William explained as they boarded. We're taking the maintenance tunnels out. 50 other shuttles are doing the same from different bays. Olivia looked concerned. What about the other humans on the station? Ambassador Peterson and most of the diplomatic staff are protected by ancient Council laws, even they won't break. They'll leave on our diplomatic vessel in 12 hours. He started the shuttle's engines. The rest are leaving like we are, any way they can. As their shuttle slipped away from the station, they saw dozens of other small craft doing the same. The Council's larger ships were moving into position, but too late to stop the exodus. On Earth, Prime Minister Reyes addressed the Parliament again. The die is cast. Every human colony has confirmed their support for withdrawal. Our fleet is moving to secure our borders. What happens now? Asked a junior minister. Reyes looked at the star map showing Earth and its 26 colony worlds, a tiny fraction of the vast Council-controlled space. Now we build, we innovate, we grow stronger without their limitations. She paused, and we prepare for their response, because they will not let us go easily. Across human space, the news spread. Earth had done the unthinkable. The Great Separation had begun. 5 years passed since Earth's dramatic exit from the Galactic Council. The first year had been the hardest. Trade routes disrupted, supplies limited, and constant fear of Council retaliation. But the attack never came. Instead, an uneasy silence fell between human space and the rest of the galaxy. Dr. Kevin Carter wiped sweat from his forehead as he made final adjustments to the quantum core. His lab on Earth's moon had grown from a small research facility to a massive complex housing over 300 scientists. Power level stable, reported his colleague Diane Lewis. Field integrity at 100%. Kevin nodded. Begin test sequence. The machine hummed to life. Around it, sensors recorded every fluctuation in the quantum field. If this worked, humanity would achieve what the Council had declared impossible: instant communication across any distance. Council scientists spent 5,000 years trying to solve this problem. Kevin said, "We did it in 5 years." Diane smiled. Amazing what people can do when they're not told something is impossible. Meanwhile, in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, mining engineer Lisa Rodriguez floated next to her latest creation. The automated harvester was the size of a small building, with dozens of mechanical arms that could identify, extract, and process valuable minerals. Control, this is Rodriguez. Harvester 17 is online and functioning perfectly. Copy that, Lisa, came the reply. That's the last one in the network. All 17 harvesters are now operational. Lisa washed with pride as the machine began cutting into a mineral-rich asteroid. Before the withdrawal, Council regulations had limited human mining operations. Those restrictions were gone, and with them, material shortages that had plagued human expansion. Resource production is now triple what it was under Council quotas, she reported. We can finally build at full capacity. Across human space, similar changes were happening. On the colony world New Eden, Governor Peter Jackson stood on the balcony of the newly completed government building. When they had left the Council, New Eden had been a struggling outpost of 20,000 people. Now it housed over 1 million. The farming collectives are reporting another record harvest, said his assistant, and the new education centers are finished ahead of schedule. Peter nodded with satisfaction. Any word from our friends beyond the border? Nothing official, but there are rumors that some Council species are not happy with the current leadership. In Earth orbit, Admiral Michelle Cooper studied the holographic display showing the position of every ship in the Earth Defense Force. The fleet had been completely rebuilt based on lessons learned from Council tactics and weaknesses observed during centuries of membership. Formation Delta looks good, she told her staff. Now let's run the Broken Arrow scenario again. I want response times under 3 minutes. Her tactical officer looked up. Admiral, we're detecting unusual activity at the edge of the Ta City system. Council ships are gathering just outside our border. Michelle frowned. How many? At least 30 vessels, mostly observation class, but there are a few warships as well. They're watching us, Michelle said. 5 years of silence, and now they send a fleet to our doorstep. Interesting timing. On the Council homeworld of Axiom Prime, High Arbiter Tex Lauren reviewed the latest reports from the human border with growing concern. These scans can't be accurate, he told his advisors. The humans have built more in 5 years than should be possible in 20. The reports are verified. High Arbiter, said of Role Intelligence Officer. Their rate of technological advancement has increased by 400% since leaving the Council. And their population? Growing rapidly. New colonies are being established in systems we deemed uninhabitable. The Arbiter's crystalline form darkened with worry. When we imposed the containment protocol, we expected them to struggle, to come back begging for readmission on our terms. Not this. Should we establish direct contact? Asked Danaid. No, the Arbiter decided. For now, we watch and wait. The humans are trapped in their tiny corner of the galaxy, developing toys that impress only themselves. Without Council trade networks and protection, they will eventually stagnate. But as he spoke, the Arbiter couldn't quite convince himself this was true. For the first time in thousands of years, the Council faced something it didn't understand. A species thriving without its guidance. Security Director Daniel Ross frowned at the sensor readings. After 8 years of almost no contact with Council space, an unknown ship had crossed into human territory. The vessel was small, damaged, and moving erratically. "Any response to our hails?" he asked. "None, sir," replied the communications officer. "But we're picking up unusual energy readings. It's not a Council design we recognize." Daniel made his decision. "Send a patrol ship to intercept. Tell them to approach with caution but offer assistance." 6 hours later, Daniel stood in the medical bay of Border Station 7, looking through a viewing window at the ship's occupants. They were clearly not from any Council species he recognized. Tall and slender with pale blue skin and large dark eyes, the aliens watched the humans with equal curiosity. "They call themselves the Valari," explained Dr. Nancy Mitchell as she reviewed their medical scans. "From what we can understand, they're refugees." "Refugees from what?" Daniel asked. "The Council. Apparently, the Valari have natural telepathic abilities. The Council considers such abilities dangerous and has been trying to contain their species for centuries." Daniel nodded slowly. "So they ran, and somehow found us." A translator had been working with the Valari, and their leader was now able to communicate. Her name was Solana, and her story was troubling. "Our people have hidden for generations," she explained. "The Council fears what they cannot control. When they discovered our main colony, we had to flee. We heard rumors of another species that had defied the Council and survived. We came seeking sanctuary. Over the next few days, more details emerged. The Valari were advanced in biological sciences and medicine, areas where humans were still developing. In return for sanctuary, they offered to share their knowledge. Their understanding of neural pathways is remarkable," Nancy told the Earth government representatives who had arrived to assess the situation. "They've developed treatments for conditions we thought were incurable." Daniel remained cautious. "This could be a Council trap, a way to infiltrate our territory." "I don't think so," Nancy said. "I've spent time with them. Their fear of the Council is genuine, and they're not the only ones who have suffered." The security feed showed Solana talking with other human doctors. "There are many species who exist on the edges of Council space," she was saying. "Species who have technologies or abilities the Council fears. For centuries, they have told us we are alone in our resistance. Now we know that isn't true." 2 weeks later, Prime Minister Reyes made an historic announcement to the human colonies. "Today, we extend formal protection to the Valari people. They will be granted settlement rights on the colony world of Horizon, where they can rebuild their society in peace." The decision sent ripples throughout nearby space. Within months, other non-Council ships began appearing at the borders of human territory. Some came to trade, others to learn, a few simply to see if the rumors were true, that humans welcomed those the Council rejected. On the colony world of Horizon, Nancy Mitchell worked closely with Valari healers, combining their biological insights with human medical technology. "This enzyme could revolutionize nerve regeneration," she told her research team. "Combined with our nanomedicine, we could cure spinal injuries completely." A Valari healer named Krell nodded in agreement. "Together, we achieve what neither could alone. This is what the Council fears most. Cooperation they do not control." Meanwhile, Council spy networks were reporting disturbing news back to Action Prime. The Arbiter read the reports with growing alarm. "The humans are accepting refugees from developmental restriction zones and offering them protection." His crystalline form flashed with angry red pulses. "This cannot be tolerated." His chief advisor seemed less certain. "High Arbiter, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. The humans have not only survived without us, they're becoming a gathering point for dissatisfied species." "Nonsense," the Arbiter responded. These are merely the desperate actions of an isolated power. Their little alliance of outcasts poses no threat to the Council's authority. But privately, he wondered if that was still true. For thousands of years, the Council had maintained control by convincing every species they needed the Council more than the Council needed them. The humans were proving that might not be the case. 11 years had passed since humanity's exit from the Galactic Council. What began as a bold, desperate move had grown into something no one expected, a genuine alternative to Council rule. Ambassador George Freeman adjusted his formal jacket as he prepared to welcome the Krell delegation. The Krell were a proud warrior species who had always maintained an uneasy relationship with the Council. Their arrival marked the third major species this year to seek formal ties with humanity. "The Krell ships are docking now, sir," his aide informed him. George nodded. "And the Nexari representatives?" "Already in the conference room. They're eager to begin discussions." The meeting hall on Earth's lunar diplomatic base was designed to accommodate a variety of alien physiologies. The Krell, with their massive frames and thick, armored skin, required reinforced seating. The Nixari, who breathed a different mixture of gases than humans, wore only small breathing devices rather than full environmental suits, a sign of the trust that had developed over months of talks. "Welcome to human space," George began. "We are honored by your presence." The Krell commander thumped his chest in greeting. "Humans have proven themselves worthy allies. The Council grows weak while you grow strong." The Nixari ambassador, a tall figure with feather-like hair, spoke next. "For centuries, the Council has limited our deep space exploration, claiming it was for our safety. Yet humans venture where they wish. Freedom has its risks," George acknowledged, "but also its rewards." Meanwhile, far from Earth, a secret meeting was taking place. In a small space station orbiting a nameless brown dwarf, Council Arbiter Zex Quilon waited nervously. As the third highest-ranking member of the Council hierarchy, his presence here was dangerous and potentially treasonous. The airlock cycled, and a human woman entered. Sharon Martinez, Earth's unofficial contact with sympathetic Council members, nodded in greeting. "Thank you for coming, Arbiter. I know the risks you take." Zex Quilon's facial tendrils twitched with anxiety. "The Council is fracturing, Human Martinez. The older species insist on maintaining control, while the younger members see the benefits of your independent development. Then why not push for reform? Change comes slowly to a body that has ruled for 50,000 years, the Arbiter said. But recent events are accelerating matters." Sharon raised an eyebrow. "What events?" "The Torvan Confederation has formally announced it will reduce its Council participation and seek independent trade agreements. They specifically mentioned humans as an inspiration. On the human colony world Novaterra, engineer Frank Wilson demonstrated his latest creation to a group of alien visitors. The shield dome covering the small test city shimmered slightly as it repelled the simulated asteroid impact. The energy efficiency is 300% better than previous designs, Frank explained. A single generator can protect an area 4 times larger than before. An observer from the border world of Kellner nodded appreciatively. "The Council has denied us this technology for decades, claiming it was still experimental. Yet here it works perfectly." Frank smiled. "We believe in sharing advances that save lives." News of human technological sharing spread quickly along the edges of Council space. Worlds that had been denied access to certain technologies for security reasons suddenly found a new source. The flow of visitors to human space increased, as did unofficial trade. Back on Axiom Prime, the Council chamber echoed with angry voices. The High Arbiter struggled to maintain order as accusations flew between representatives. "The humans are deliberately undermining Council authority," shouted the Vrol delegate. "By sharing medical technology, by trading fairly with border worlds," countered a younger Council member. "Perhaps if we had done the same, they would not have left." For the first time in recorded history, a Council session ended without a formal consensus. Representatives from 3 species remained behind, discussing matters in hushed tones. The next day, the Durrani, a species known for their strict adherence to council rules, formally announced their withdrawal. After 50,000 years of unquestioned authority, the council had lost a second member. The High Arbiter stared out at the glittering capital city. "How is this happening?" he asked his advisors. "We are the council. We have guided the galaxy since before these species achieved spaceflight." "Perhaps," said a junior aide cautiously, "that is precisely the problem. They no longer wish to be guided." 15 years after Earth's withdrawal, the research station Copernicus hung in orbit around a distant gas giant. It was humanity's farthest outpost, a place where scientists studied strange cosmic phenomena far from Earth. The station was peaceful, focused on learning rather than military concerns. That peace shattered when the attack came. Lieutenant Samantha Taylor was on duty when the first explosions rocked the station. Alarms blared as she raced to the command center. "What's happening?" she demanded, strapping herself into the captain's chair. The regular commander was on Earth for meetings, leaving her in charge. 3 ships appeared out of nowhere, reported the sensor operator. "They're using scrambled signatures. Looks like pirates." Samantha knew better. Pirates didn't attack research stations. There was nothing valuable enough to steal. "Seal all bulkheads. Launch distress beacon." Her small patrol vessel, the Defiant, was docked at the station. "Get the Defiant ready for emergency departure," she ordered, "and activate all recording systems. I want every second of this documented." The attacking ships fired again. A section of the station vented atmosphere into space. "Evacuation pods launching," someone reported. 37 personnel still unaccounted for. Samantha made a quick decision. "I'm taking the Defiant out. We need to buy time for the evacuation." Minutes later, the patrol ship detached from the station. It was small, barely a fifth the size of the attackers, but Samantha wasn't planning to win, just to distract. As the Defiant engaged the nearest enemy vessel, Samantha noticed something odd. Their weapon systems. The energy signature is Council military. Her tactical officer looked up in surprise. "Are you sure?" "Positive. I served on Council joint missions for 3 years. I know their weapons." She adjusted the sensors. "Record everything, especially the weapon signatures." For 12 minutes, the Defiant danced around the attackers, drawing fire away from the station. Then, as suddenly as they had appeared, the enemy ships jumped away. "They're retreating," said the tactical officer in disbelief. "Why would they leave before finishing the job?" "Because destroying us wasn't their real mission," Samantha realized. "They wanted to send a message." Back on Earth, intelligence analyst Ryan Phillips studied the data from the attack. The evidence was clear but made no sense. "These are definitely Council weapons signatures," he told President Linda Blackwood. "But they're using outdated security codes. And look at this flight pattern. It's classic Sith military tactics." "You're saying the Council ordered this attack?" the President asked. "Not the full Council," Ryan clarified. "A faction within it, one that wants to force us back under their control." The official Council response came 2 days later. High Arbiter Tex Loren expressed deep concern over the attack, but claimed it was the work of pirates or rebels. Furthermore, he suggested that the research station had been operating in disputed territory, and that human expansion was provocative. President Blackwood met with her advisors to consider their response. Some pushed for military action, arguing that a show of force was necessary. "If we attack, we play into their hands," the President said. "They want us to appear aggressive, to justify further action against us." Admiral Joseph Brown agreed. "We don't have the numbers to win a direct confrontation." "Not yet." "Then what do we do?" asked Defense Secretary Alicia Ward. "We can't just ignore an attack on our people." The President turned to Ryan. "What if we revealed what we know? Not just about this attack, but everything we've gathered over 15 years. Ryan understood immediately. Operation Sunlight. We've been collecting evidence of Council manipulation and corruption since before we withdrew. Decades of secret recordings, classified documents, testimony from defectors. The Council has maintained control partly through information control, the President said. Species are kept isolated, told that the Council is the only path to peace and prosperity. She stood and looked at the star map showing human territory and its growing network of allies. Prepare the data. We're going to show the galaxy the truth. Every secret deal, every suppressed technology, every act of sabotage against species that grew too independent. Ryan nodded. It will cause chaos. Yes, the President agreed. But sometimes you need to shake the foundations to build something better. Operation Sunlight hit the galaxy like a supernova. Using the quantum communication network developed by Dr. Kevin Carter, humans broadcast the truth to every corner of Council space simultaneously. 50,000 years of secrets exposed in a single day. The Council chambers on Action Prime descended into chaos. Species that had been allies for millennia turned on each other as they learned of secret deals and betrayals. The Zith High Arbiter tried desperately to maintain order. These are human lies, he shouted over the noise. Fabrications designed to divide us. But the evidence was too thorough, too detailed to dismiss. Records of Council species sabotaging the development of younger races. Proof that technologies claimed to be too dangerous were actually in common use by elder species. Documentation of Council involvement in the attack on the Copernicus station. Admiral Joseph Brown watched the unfolding events from the bridge of the Earth flagship Guardian. His fleet was positioned along key trade routes, not to block them but to protect them. "Sir, we're getting distress calls from merchant ships near the Orion transit point," reported his communications officer. "Council military vessels are firing on civilian traffic." Joseph frowned. "Move Battle Group 3 to assist. Tell them to evacuate civilians but avoid direct conflict with Council ships if possible." Across the galaxy, the carefully maintained order of 50,000 years was crumbling. On some worlds, younger generations took to the streets, demanding their governments withdraw from the Council. On others, long-suppressed rivalries reignited into open conflict. On the Council homeworld, the unthinkable happened. Young Zith, their crystalline bodies glowing with the blue light of rebellion, gathered outside the Council chambers. "We stand with Earth," they chanted. "Freedom for all species." The High Arbiter watched in horror from his private chambers. How can they side with humans over their own kind? His aide, younger and more sympathetic to the protesters, answered carefully. The younger generations grew up watching human entertainment, studying human history. They admire their resilience, their creativity. "Their disobedience," the Arbiter said bitterly. On a neutral world called Tellus, Dr. Eric Davis led a human delegation to an unprecedented gathering. 17 species, both former Council members and those who had never been admitted, had agreed to meet and discuss a new form of galactic organization. "We don't propose to replace the Council with human leadership," Eric told the assembled representatives. "Earth has no desire to rule. What we suggest instead is a galactic accord, a free association of equals." A Valari delegate spoke next. The Council maintained power by keeping species isolated, dependent on them for protection and technology. The humans showed us another way. The Krell commander thumped his chest in agreement. They shared knowledge freely, treated us as equals despite their youth. Eric outlined the principles of the proposed accord: protection of sovereignty, free exchange of scientific and cultural knowledge, mutual defense against external threats, no restrictions on technological development except those agreed to by all members. The Council claimed such an arrangement would lead to chaos, Eric said. Yet we have thrived since leaving their control. Imagine what we could achieve together. As discussions continued on Tellus, humanity's fleet remained vigilant. Admiral Brown received updates from across former Council space. Some regions had fallen into conflict, but others were establishing new alliances based on the human model. "Sir," his aide reported, The Durrani are requesting our help evacuating their diplomats from Action Prime. Council hardliners have placed them under house arrest. Joseph nodded. Send our fastest ships. And contact President Blackwood. She should know that the Council leadership is starting to take desperate measures. Back on Earth, President Blackwood reviewed the latest reports with her Security Council. The Council is fracturing faster than we anticipated, she said. We need to be ready for whatever comes next. Defense Secretary Ward looked troubled. We may have started something we can't control. Perhaps, the President agreed. But the galaxy was already changing. We just removed the facade of unity that hid the cracks. 20 years had passed since humanity's bold exit from the Galactic Council. On the planet Harmony, representatives from 37 species gathered for the first full assembly of the Galactic Accord. The grand meeting hall, with its soaring crystal dome that let in the light of Harmony's twin suns, buzzed with excited conversation in dozens of languages. Chief Justice Julia Bennett adjusted her formal robes as she prepared to address the assembly. As one of the authors of the Accord's founding document, she had been chosen to lead the opening ceremony. 20 years ago, she began, humanity stood alone against a system that had ruled for 50,000 years. Today, we stand together as equals, united not by force or fear, but by shared principles and mutual respect. The applause that followed came in many forms: the thunderous clapping of human hands, the resonant humming of Thelari approval, the rhythmic stomping of Krell feet. Species that once viewed each other with Council-encouraged suspicion now worked side by side. In the back of the hall, Military Commander Jason Clark watched the proceedings with quiet pride. His uniform bore the insignia of the Joint Defense Force, a multinational fleet created to protect Accord members. Beside him stood Talia, a Valari who had risen to become her people's representative to the Accord. Your people did this, Talia said softly. You showed us all that another way was possible. Jason shook his head. We simply took the first step. Every species here helped build what came after. Outside the hall, the city of Unity sprawled across Harmony's main continent. Unlike the rigid architectural uniformity of Council worlds, Unity was a beautiful chaos of different styles and technologies. Krell Fortress homes stood beside delicate Nyx-Ari spiral towers. Human-designed parks intersected with Valari healing gardens. Not all species had joined the Accord. Some of the oldest Council races had withdrawn completely, retreating to their home systems. The Zith, once the dominant force in galactic politics, had split into factions. The younger, reformist Zith had established relations with the Accord, while the traditionalists isolated themselves on Action Prime. After the ceremony, Julia met with the Inner Council in a smaller chamber. Representatives from the founding species discussed the challenges still facing the new galactic order. The former Council worlds in the Orion sector are struggling, said the Durrani delegate. Centuries of dependency on Council support left them unprepared for independence. We should extend aid, Julia suggested. Show them that cooperation doesn't require submission. The Krell commander nodded in agreement. Our strength grows. 3 more species have petitioned to join the Accord this cycle. Later that evening, as Harmony's twin suns set, Jason and Talia stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Sometimes I still can't believe it, Talia said. When I was young, we hid our abilities, afraid the Council would punish us. Now Valari healers work openly throughout Accord space. The old Council believed control was necessary for peace, Jason replied. They were wrong. On Earth, in a small house overlooking the Pacific Ocean, retired Colonel Jack Miller received a message from Julia Bennett. The first full assembly had been a success. The Accord was growing stronger. The principles they had fought for 20 years ago were now the foundation of a new galactic civilization. Jack smiled as he set down the message. He remembered the fear he had felt upon discovering the Council's plot to contain humanity. He remembered the uncertainty of those first days after withdrawal, when no one knew if Earth would survive alone. His granddaughter Sarah ran into the room, excited about her school project on the formation of the Accord. "Grandpa, is it true you were there when it all started?" she asked. "I was," Jack said. "I saw the old council at its worst, and I've lived to see something better take its place. My teacher says humans changed everything when they left the council." Jack looked through the window at the stars beginning to appear in the evening sky. Once, humans had looked up and felt small, insignificant in the vast council-dominated galaxy. Now those same stars represented possibility, partnership, progress. "We didn't change everything," Jack told his granddaughter. "We just showed that change was possible."